See, you guys get quiet really quick when I grab, not this time, Cedar Grove, I'm on to you. I made a beeline straight for this thing. Anyway, like Joy said, my name's Jake. I'm a pastor over at Valley Community Church in Pleasanton. I've been there for about 11 years. And my goodness, it's such a gift to be back with you all. Last time in this service, actually, this was the service where I forgot to turn off my mic after I preached. And I sang along with worship, which was a thinly veiled attempt to try out for the worship team. But Carmen ghosted me and never got back. I'm available all the time except Sundays. Just let me know, man. Put me in, coach. But anyway, very early in the infamous COVID shutdown, I was given a gift. It was a gift so precious that it would occupy my time, my focus, and my imagination. It would take what was otherwise a listless, ambiguous, difficult season and imbue it with meaning and beauty and a compelling sense of purpose. I was given an annual subscription to the Masterclass website. I'm not kidding. This is not sarcastic. I treasure this. If you don't know what Masterclass is, the idea is this. Someone who is famously considered to be a master of their craft teaches an online course where you can learn their craft directly from them. And so you might have seen the Facebook ads that are like eerily geared towards you. It's like learn photography from Annie Leibovitz or learn filmmaking from James Cameron. It's extremely cool. And I say this was a precious gift to me because I have what many people would call a problem when it comes to hobbies. And they're right. Like, I'm an Enneagram 5, a hobbyist at heart. Like, I acquire new hobbies, spend all the money to acquire all the stuff for that hobby, go into crippling debt. Kidding. Sometimes. But then, like, I hopped to the new thing. Like, when the COVID shutdown started and everyone started making sourdough, I was like, I was made for this. Let's go. I was unironically very interested in sourdough starters. And so Masterclass is basically Disneyland to me. I watched Aaron Franklin, the undisputed king of Central Texas barbecue, drink backyard beers in the morning and discuss the finer points of burning a clean fire with post oak wood. I watched Ron Finley teach how to plant and cultivate a beautiful garden. I hate gardening. I hated it before the Masterclass. At that point, I lived in an apartment. I didn't have a garden, a backyard. But I was like, I guess this will come in handy one day when I decide that gardening is good. I watched like 12 hours of Gordon Ramsay fillet a fish while he screamed profanities at it. And it was great. I started cooking that way, and my wife was like, you are a husband and a father and a pastor. And I was like, salmon, in. It was great. I watched Dave Negroni teach how to pull off a good bluff in poker. I watched Mark Jacobs teach fashion design. And my wife, my poor wife, she would walk in, and she'd be like, hey, can we watch anything? Literally anything else. Like, can we watch a sitcom? Like, can we watch Parks and Rec? Can we watch those weirdly addictive Apple TV screensavers? You know what I'm talking about. And I was like, sorry, babe. I got to learn from Chris Hadfield how to command the International Space Station. Because that's going to matter in my career as a pastor on Earth. But it's funny, after I watched what many people would reasonably call an irresponsible amount of Masterclass content, you know what I noticed? Every single Masterclass, regardless of what was being taught or who was teaching it, always took the same approach to teaching a craft. Even though each Masterclass's focus was wildly different, each master taught their craft in the exact same way, focusing on the exact same kinds of things. Rather than teaching the fringe or niche, coolest little techniques in each craft, each master focused on the fundamentals, the basics, right? The fundamentals. Not because these were introductory courses, because these masters realized that to truly grow in competence and confidence at something, you need to master the fundamentals and never graduate from them. Mastery of a craft depends on your ability to master and practice the fundamentals relentlessly. Like in Steph Curry's masterclass, which did nothing to help my athleticism, by the way, he didn't focus on complex footwork or making three-pointers. He focuses on teaching you how to shoot the perfect form for the free throw, the easiest shot in basketball. His reasoning is that if you can't consistently make an undefended straight-on shot, you're probably not going to sink a three-pointer when the pressure is on. Chris Hadfield, an actual rocket scientist, astronaut, and famous commander of the space station, he doesn't focus on thermodynamics or even how to fly a spacecraft. He focuses on leadership and communication, like the whole time. It's really a Craig Groeschel leadership podcast, but it happens in space. Super interestingly, both Gordon Ramsay and Thomas Keller, two of the most decorated celebrity chefs in the world, together they hold 24 Michelin stars. They both focus on the exact same thing in their separate masterclasses, the humble egg. Thomas Keller calls the egg the most important food in the world. It's actually pretty funny. Thomas Keller, a famously talented chef who has cooked for some of the most famous people in the world, he spends hours teaching you how to scramble an egg. The thing you make half awake in your pajamas on Saturday mornings that your kids throw out. He spends hours. It's crazy. In fact, Gordon Ramsay even says that when he tries out a new chef for one of his restaurants, he doesn't have that chef trot out his most elaborate niche recipe. Guess what he has that chef make as a tryout? Eggs. A French omelet, to be specific. Why? Because you can't hide when you make a French omelet. There's no impressive appliances. There's no expensive ingredients. It's just eggs and technique. And if you don't have the technique, it's going to show. You can't hide behind a French omelet. That's your quote for the morning, by the way. You can't hide behind a French omelet. Let's pray. The reality is this. To grow in competence and confidence at a craft, there's no way around it. You must relentlessly practice the fundamentals until they become second nature to you. And you must continue to practice those fundamentals over and over and over again. There are no shortcuts, no cheat codes. The fundamentals alone give mastery. So here's my question for us this morning that you may have seen coming. What is most fundamental when it comes to following Jesus? Or maybe it's more helpful to ask, what does Jesus think the most fundamental thing is when it comes to following him? See, if you look at the way that Jesus taught, the way that he lived, what you notice is that he doesn't seem to teach ideas or even theology as much as we assume that he does. You see, rather than the life of Jesus being like a collection of good teachings, the life of Jesus is actually a lot more like a masterclass. It's a lot more practical than we seem to assume it is. He invites us to know him, to be with him, and then to become like him by doing what he did through the power of the Spirit. So simply put, Jesus calls people to follow him in the most practical terms imaginable, and he offers his own life as a masterclass in how to do it. Jesus is so practical. You won't find a more practical man than Jesus of Nazareth. He didn't primarily teach a worldview, he taught a way. He invites us to learn his craft. And so following Jesus isn't about intellectual assent, it's about sitting at the feet of Jesus like Mary did and living out the life that the Spirit already empowers you to live out. There's a lot that Jesus seems to ask of his disciples when it comes to this Jesus life. Prayer, generosity, worship, fasting. But this morning we're going to simplify the whole thing and ask, what is most fundamental? When it comes to the craft, the practice, the habit of following Jesus, what does Jesus think is bedrock level, gotta have it, most important, fundamental? Thankfully for us, that fundamental isn't shrouded in ambiguity. Jesus didn't hide it in a parable. He didn't use metaphors, really. He just openly tells us what the fundamental is. He's incredibly clear, specific, and practical about it. And if you think you know what it is, you're probably right, but different than you think. And so what we're about to read today is in John 15, and all you need to know is that this is one of the last things that Jesus ever says to the disciples before he's crucified. This is one of his last shots to summarize what he's taught the disciples. This is his Moses speech at the end of Deuteronomy. This is Jesus' shot to crystallize everything he wants the disciples to hold on to. So John 15, 12 through 17. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. There it is. Greater love has no one, no greater example than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I've called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I've made it known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another. Now, at the time Jesus says this to the disciples, imagine what they have experienced with him. They've been with him for 3 years, traveling with him, living with him, doing ministry shoulder to shoulder with him. They have been present for all of the teachings, all of the sermons, most of the miracles. They've seen Jesus go toe-to-toe with the Pharisees. They've seen Lazarus come out of the tomb. They were the audience for the Sermon on the Mount, like the most crystallized mountaintop moment of Jesus' teaching ministry. Imagine how many conversations on top of that they must have had with Jesus between the scenes that we see in the Gospels. All the late night heart-to-hearts. Like if you've ever hung out with high school guys and it's late at night and there's a campfire present, like you know what that is, right? All those little like heart-to-hearts that we don't even see in the Gospels. After all of it, Jesus' entire ministry, Jesus says this, this is my commandment, singular, love one another. This is it, right here. This is the fundamental, this one thing, love one another, this thing right here. Y'all know what the Greek word behind this means? It means this, right? This thing, right? Like Jesus is like, almost like, I mean, he's doing this, right? He's like, everybody, Peter, especially you, listen up. Like this singular thing, like not like amongst other things, this, how more clearly can I say it? This one thing is the fundamental. Simply put, according to Jesus, love is the fundamental practice of discipleship to him. The fundamental is love. The singular fundamental is love. In other words, if there is one thing that you focus on in your discipleship to Jesus, it must be love. If there's one thing you do, it must be love. Nothing else holds weight against love. Love is the central bedrock, gotta have it fundamental when it comes to following Jesus. It is the commandment. Sounds overstated, doesn't it? Because there's a lot of other stuff that goes into the Jesus life. Generosity, fasting, they all flow from love. And if they don't, it's just showmanship. The way of Jesus does not simply include loving others. The way of Jesus is loving others. Loving others is not a feature of the Jesus life. The Jesus life is love. One more time. Loving others is not a feature of the Jesus life. The Jesus life is love. If you are not loving, you are not following Jesus. If you are not loving, you are not discipling yourself to Jesus. It's not like we can live a really nice Christian life, do a bunch of really good things, but be like, but my love is really weak. Like, I'm really bad at that. That's not Christianity. That's something different. Love is not like one of the many competencies that go into the Jesus life. It's the whole thing. Love is not extra credit in the Christian life. It's the whole course. It's the whole thing. Here's another way to think about it. You could think about everything that Jesus ever commanded is simply taking love for others and putting it in a specific context. Everything that Jesus ever taught is taking love and making it practical in a situation. Jesus never taught anything other than love, according to him. John 15, verse 17, these things I command you so that you will love one another. Everything Jesus ever taught was love. His whole message was love for others. It gets more uncomfortable the more you state it clearly. Love is the fundamental. It's the fundamental means of discipleship to Jesus. We can get so many things right in the Christian life. Theology, belief, generosity, tithing, church attendance. But if you don't have love, you're wrong. As Preston Sprinkle says, he says, we can even get the Bible right, but if we get love wrong, we are wrong. You can have great theology. You can have really good biblical theology, but if you don't have love, you're off. Paul puts it this way in his letter to the Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and I understand all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I am nothing. You notice that all those things Paul mentions are typically the behaviors we associate with Christian elites? Like really healthy Christian discipleship. When you think about like platinum level card carrying Christians, like as if you know one, that's weird. But when you think of one, those are the behaviors we associate with them. And when it comes to ourselves, we think like, yeah, if I had all knowledge, if I had all faith, if I could move mountains with a word, right? If I knew all mysteries, if I had no doubts, if I had so much faith, if I could do these incredible signs, I will have arrived. But Paul's like, yeah, if you don't have love, you're bankrupt. None of it matters if love's not the beating heart of it all. It goes like this. I've spent years diving into theology. I've done the hard work of building up a biblical worldview. I am convinced that my theology is watertight and biblical. That's great. How's your love? I play on the church band. I lead a community group. I consistently tithe. Thank you. I go to all the church stuff. Wonderful. You stay late, help tear down. That's great. Thank you. How's your love? I kicked that old pornography habit. The dumb things I used to do, I don't do them now. Praise God, truly. How's your love? I can eloquently identify and challenge precisely where our culture and country have strayed from God and how to get them back. Cool. How's your love? Friends, this is what Paul is getting at, and I think we need to hear this. It is so easy to fixate on just about everything else in the Christian life instead of the fundamental of love. It's so easy to fixate on all the things we assume are part and parcel with elite Christian behavior while we become ignorant and distracted from love. Why? Because everything is easier than love. Everything in the Christian life is easier than love is. Showing up to church every Sunday is easier than love. Kicking old immoral habits is easier than love. Learning Greek and Hebrew is easier. Learning theology is easier. Everything in the Christian life is more comfortable and is easier than love. Love is the central and often most difficult activity in discipleship. And so here we run into a very important question. What does it look like? Practically speaking, really avoiding the temptation to sing, what is love? What does love look like in practical terms? There's a danger here too, isn't there? There's a danger to go, okay, so I agree that love is really important, and here's what I think that looks like in my life. What's the issue? It's a lot of me, right? Too much me. 3 times too much me. If we are not vigilant, we will take Jesus' command to love others, and we will apply it in such a way that it requires no actual change from us. If we are not vigilant, we will take Jesus' command to love one another's, and we will use it to sanctify our lives as they already exist. We will agree with the idea that we should love others, rationalize it to look like our already present life, so that we can be comfortable believing that we are nice, loving people, and therefore we do not need to change. Friends, any definition of love that does not require change from you is a bill of goods. It's not love. It's rationalization. It's comfort. It's very easy to say you're a loving person when you're the one who gets to define what love looks like. We all do this to some degree, but Jesus leaves us no such option in the text. Right at the start of verse 12, he says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." In other words, the point is not that we love others as makes sense to us, but that we recognize that Jesus holds the exclusive right to define what love looks like. And the more we try to take that right from him, the less we actually live in his way of love. We do love the Jesus way, not our way. And what is his way? Jesus gets relentlessly clear here. He says this, "Greater love has no one or no greater example than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." So there you have it. Lay down your life for your friends. I'll be honest, for years when I read this, I was like, okay. So I guess what I do is I wait until a friend of mine is crossing a street and a bus comes. And I push them out of the way and I say, "I've arrived." That ain't it. Jesus is talking about his literal death. He is talking about the cross. He is putting forward the cross as the greatest example of love. He is doing that. He's drawing our eyes to his sacrifice. But Jesus is also drawing your eyes to a practical truth, that Jesus did not just die for us, he lived for us. He's drawing your eyes to his life. And there's a little thing that Jesus says that kind of gets lost in English, but becomes really clear in the Greek text. And so when Jesus says, "lay down your life for your friends," the Greek verb behind lay down is the verb tithemi. Very cute word. You can take it home with you. Tell your friends. Tithemi. It'll be useless to you, trust me. But tithemi. It's actually in the text twice. It's in the very end of it too, when he says this, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit." Two very different English words from the same Greek word, to lay down and to appoint. The reason that word looks different is tithemi's core definition is this: to take something and to position it for a specific and intended purpose. That's what that word means. To take something and to position it for a clear and specific purpose. So when Jesus says to the disciples, "I have chose you and I have tithemied you," he's saying, I have taken you and positioned you for a purpose, that you bear fruit. It's like a football coach running plays for the team, right? Saying every player has their own appointed position on the field for a specific purpose, right? Every player knows where they stand and what their purpose is. Or it's like the young, violent psychopath Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, putting scary things around the house to trip up the intruders, right? When he puts things to fall on their heads, he's tithemiing that thing, right? He's putting it there for a specific purpose. Kid's scary. I don't know how we missed that when the movie first came out. It's to take something and to position it for a specific purpose. So what is Jesus saying about your life? He's saying this: here is the clearest example of the fundamental of love. Take your life and position it as a place of love for others. That's the fundamental. Not just to love others, but in the most relentlessly practical, rigorously boots-on-the-ground way possible, take your life, position it for the specific purpose of love for others. It's a little different than just saying love one another, isn't it? Love one another is easy to make into an idea. Position your life for love demands practical commitment from you. When Jesus talks about love, he isn't really talking about your best intentions. He's talking about the real ways that you have practically positioned your literal life as a place for other people. That's what Jesus is getting at. Position your life for the specific purpose of love. So friends, let me ask you this morning, for what purpose is your life presently positioned? For what purpose is your life presently positioned. It might be more helpful to ask you not what you think it is. What does your schedule say it is? What does your wallet say it is? What does your attention say it is? What do your habits and your time say it is? If someone else were to look at your life, the schedule you keep, the time and energy you give, the way you portion out your attention, if a perfect outsider were to audit your life, for what purpose would they assume you live your life? Without you being able to qualify or put asterisks on things. Say, oh, I just had a tough month. Some of you are laughing now because it's about to get really uncomfortable, isn't it? No one's comfortable right now. I'm not comfortable. This is hard for me too. For what purpose is your life positioned? Not what you would like to say, but what you must honestly say. For what purpose is your life positioned? What Jesus is saying this, you must confront the ways your life has gone off the rails of love. You must confront the ways that your life has been badly positioned, and through the way of Jesus, we reposition our lives in the most practical terms to be a place of love for other people. James K. Smith, one of my absolute favorites, he wrote a great little book on love. He summarizes it like this. Discipleship is being intentional about love. Discipleship is not just love, it's being intentional about love. Intentional with your schedule, intentional with your time, intentional with your habits and your attention and your money and everything else. Love claims all of you. Love claims the whole thing. Love cannot be compartmentalized. It has to be the whole thing. Love is not an intention or an idea. It is a practical life-positioning reality. It has schedule-affecting power. It touches your bank account. And if it doesn't, it's not Jesus' way of love. Intentional about love. Love is present, love is real. Does not overthink, it's not conceptual. Must be rigorously practical. Because that's what Jesus loved us, right? For Jesus, love was not an idea or an intention. For Jesus, love was not a concept or some vague virtue. Love was his life and his schedule. Jesus loved us with his body, with his time. Think about how Jesus positioned his life. The guy always had time for the disciples. He always had time for the disciples, even when they failed at understanding anything about the kingdom of God. He always had time. You ever notice how Jesus positioned his life to include massive amounts of unstructured time where he could just teach the disciples? You ever notice how the disciples were the audience for the Sermon on the Mount, and right afterwards, we see Jesus fielding Peter's dumb questions? That's a life well positioned for love. Jesus didn't have to do that. He didn't have to take time for the disciples. They were there for the Sermon on the Mount. But he did. He positioned his life deeply practically. You won't find a more practical man than Jesus of Nazareth, especially when it comes to love. So what I want to do with the rest of the time we have together is I want just to get boots on the ground and get relentlessly practical about 3 ways you can position your life for love. If this morning you're sitting with the theological uh-oh feeling, as I am, and you're saying, my life, at least to some degree, has become mispositioned, has become like deoriented, and I need to reposition it in practical terms for love. I need it to theme my life, right? I need to respond to what the Spirit is already doing in my life and live into that. By the Spirit's power, I need to reorient my life. Here are 3 practical ways to do that. And these are not broad, like anywhere in the world do these. This is like Livermore, California. Like here and now in the cultural waters we swim in, how do you practically position your life for the sole purpose of love? First thing is this. Slow down. To position your life for love, the first thing you will probably have to do is take your daily schedule and slow it down. You will have to take your actual schedule and actually slow it down. If you notice that you struggle to love others, the root cause is not likely that you are just a mean person. The root cause is likely that you are a busy person. The greatest obstacle to loving your life is probably not because you're a vindictive, cruel, bad, evil person, I hope. The root cause is that you're busy, your schedule's full. It's that you go from one thing to next in your schedule. You're still burned out from the thing you came from, and you're already anxious about the thing you're going to. So the effect is you're never actually here. You're anxious about what you've done in your schedule. You're already worried about the next 5 things in your schedule. And so whatever moment you're in, you're not fully present. You're living in the past. You're living in anxiety. You're not present, which is a problem because the people that the Spirit puts in your life for you to love have this weird habit of living in the present. People we love, they're rarely in the past or the future. They don't require time travel. They require you to slow down. How has your schedule made it unmanageable for you to actually see the other people the Spirit would put in your life? Think about the last time you just said some bonehead thing to someone you love. Like you're in that conversation, you say the thing, and it's like you step out of your body and you're like, oh no, right? Why did you say that? Maybe it's just me. Was your schedule busy that day? Were you tired? Were you stressed? Did you have a long day pattern of just thing after thing after thing after thing? Imagine how many fewer hurtful things you would say if you lived a little slower. Imagine the effect on your marriage, your relationships. Imagine the effect on your friendships. Imagine how fewer venomous arguments you would get into. Imagine how much shorter arguments would be. Imagine how much more often you'd apologize. Imagine how much more often you'd repent or see where you might be wrong. Friends, I think we need to hear this. If you're not willing to slow down, it's likely because you're just afraid of failing the expectations of culture. You're just afraid of failing the expectations of others. Do you live your life at a pace that actually cultivates love for others? Your schedule isn't neutral. It's doing something to you. The speed at which you live your life, it's not neutral. It's either making love more possible or less possible. Which one is it? If your answer is less possible, your schedule needs to change out of obedience to Jesus. To put it as simply as I can. In 1 Corinthians 13, Paul lists off a bunch of things that are true about love. He says, love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast. Welcome to a Christian wedding, right? What's the first thing Paul says about love? Patient. Love is patient. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter named Brinley. I have 3 kids. She's my eldest. Pray for me. She's 5 out of 5 stars. Would parent again. They're all great. Brinley, oh, I love this girl. What I noticed with Brinley is this. Last week, I went to my wife, Jill, and I'm like, I'm having like a hard time connecting with Brinley this week. I feel like I'm just like we're not clicking. And my wife was just like, yeah, you have to move at her speed. Because I love my daughter. She's wonderful, but oh my goodness, she lives at a glacial pace. Like, have you ever watched a 3-year-old put on their shoes in the morning? No, you haven't, because you were on time for church. Actually, this is second service, so maybe you did. Maybe you're normally first service, and you made the mistake of letting your child put on their own clothing. When I find myself hurried and my schedule is busy, as I often feel, what I notice is this. I don't live at my daughter's pace. I demand she lives at mine. I become impatient, and I sacrifice relationship for efficiency. And at the end of the day, I'm left sitting there saying, what did I gain? What did I gain? 5 minutes and an upset daughter? A relationship with a wound that I now have to fix? Living at fast speed is all about efficiency, but you sacrifice relationship. And relationship is where love happens. Love has to be patient. You can't love in a hurry. At least not the way Jesus did. I don't know if you need to hear this, but you aren't busier than Jesus was. Jesus was always busy, but he never seems in a hurry, does he? He always has time. Busy guy, never in a hurry. Be like Jesus. Look at your schedule. Cut things out if you need to. Add 10 minutes between your meetings. Add margin to your schedule. If you need to cut out something, do it. Suffer the ire of other people and culture for the greater gift of knowing Jesus Christ, our Lord, at his pace of life, which is always the slow, patient pace of love. Christianity has always been countercultural. The most countercultural thing you can do is probably protect a Sabbath, to be honest. It's probably slow down. Second thing, Ask often, how do others experience me? We're having all kinds of fun this morning. How do others experience me? Not how do I intend other people to experience me, not what did I mean, and definitely not how do I think that other people should experience me. Regardless of my best intentions, how do people actually experience my presence? In psychology, particularly Bowen's family systems theory, if you're a nerd, or if you're just a psychology person, sorry, there is a concept called emotional field. The idea is this: whatever's going on inside of you has kind of a gravitational pull on the emotions of other people. Have you ever spent a good amount of time with a deeply negative and cynical and angry person, and you walked away feeling a little more cynical and angry and negative? Or you watched a really, really, really sad movie and you were kind of sad after? That's an emotional field. Have you ever been around like a joyful, bubbly, happy to be here kind of person, and you walked away like a cartoon character? Like pretty happy to be here too? That's an emotional field, right? We pull others into our strongest emotions. What's your emotional field like? Judging that the majority of our communication is nonverbal, it's probably safe to say that your emotional field is probably the primary way that you affect other people in your life. That's definitely true of the closest people in your life. In Proverbs 4, it says, guard your heart because everything you do flows from it. Guard your heart. Manage your emotional field. Recognize that your strongest and most consistent emotions are never just yours. You end up sharing them with the people you interact with the most. Your strongest emotions will form other people, and it starts probably with your family, and then your closest friends, then work acquaintances. When you walk in the door of your house after a long day of work, you step into your house, what do you imbue your home with? What emotions are introduced into that environment when you walk in the door? Does your home become more patient, more joyful, more calm, slow, non-anxious, loving, generous? Does it become more anxious? Does it become more stressed out? Does it become more argumentative? Does it become more fragile? Does ego raise when you walk in the door? It's a hard question. None of us like the answer to it. What do you imbue your home environment with? Guard your heart. If you let cynicism into your heart and you let it take root, you will form your family into cynical people. If you let anger take root in your heart, you will notice that your closest loved ones become more angry. That's not loving. That's not serving them as Jesus would. One of the most loving things you can do in the most practical sense imaginable is to sit under the emotional field of Jesus. Let his emotional field draw you in. And then pass that on to other people. In John 15, in the verses before our text today, Jesus says this: I have told you these things so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. See the emotional field there? If we are with Jesus, sitting under his emotional field, we ourselves will be emotionally formed into the image of Christ, and we will bring others into the actual joy of Jesus Christ. Imagine what is possible with a healthy emotional field. If you guard your heart, if you get cynicism out, if you get anxiety out, if you get anger out, the only way to do that is to sit with Jesus under his emotional field. The way you bring joy to the others in your life is by yourself being authentically joyful. Sit with Jesus. Use your emotional field. A helpful thing here is a pastor in New York named John Tyson. He talks about how he actually speaks a liturgy over himself before he opens the front door to his apartment. He says something like, I am a fun father. I am a present husband. Like he stands in the hallway and does this. Like he goes, I am present. I am joyful. He goes, I'm going into my home tonight. Tonight is going to count. I love that. I do that now. It's weird. I do it in my car. But in a blog he wrote, he tells a story about how his neighbor walked out once while Tyson was standing at the door just being like, I'm a fun dad. I'm a present father. And the neighbor was like, what are you doing? And Tyson, he has an Australian accent that I'm not going to try to imitate. But he just goes, I'm just trying to keep the garbage out there from coming into my house. I'm just trying to keep the garbage on my schedule from affecting. I'm trying to absorb the curse and pass on the blessing, right? You know what his neighbor said? I wish my dad had done that more with me. Don't you wish yours had? Even if you had a great dad, imagine what you can pass on to your friends, your family, if we manage and guard our hearts. Final thing, add value and depth to relationships. Because of the pace we live at, relationships in our culture tend to exist at a quite shallow level. Deepen them. People experience love most often by being known and by being listened to. A pastor at my church often says that people are changed more by being listened to than by being talked at. In conversations, switch out your questions for higher level ones. Don't just ask, how are you? Ask, what's been wonderful to you this week? What's been giving you joy? I was at a 5-year-old's birthday party yesterday with my kids. That's an important detail. I was at a 5-year-old's birthday party, ran into an old friend of mine, and he goes, Jake, you're pretty busy these days. What are you doing, just to recenter and restore your energy? I felt so loved by that question, right? Do that in your relationships. Ask the deeper questions. The words "tell me more" are a gift to you. When you ask someone a question, wait 2 or 3 seconds before you respond. This is a pro tip, people often realize they're actually being listened to, and they will open up with a sigh. Actually listen to others. Jesus does this beautifully. John 15, he says, I no longer call you slaves because slaves don't know what the master is doing. I call you friends. Because everything God has said to me, I've made known to you. I've opened myself to you. I've deepened our relationship. I have not allowed our relationships to stay at a shallow, performance-based level. I've brought you into my life intimately, and I've asked the deeper questions. I've told you the deeper things. It's an act of love. Friends, to land the plane, imagine what would happen if you took Jesus at his word and fostered a life of practical love. If you simply obeyed Jesus in the most rigorously practical terms imaginable and positioned your life for love. If you partnered with the transformation that the Spirit is already working in your life, if you slowed down, always had time for others, managed your emotional field, your presence is a source of joy. You added value to relationships, your friends felt genuinely seen. What would the effect be? Witness. Beautiful, beautiful witness. Our witness in the world comes less from what you say and way more from how you have positioned your life practically for love. The greatest evangelist is not the one who has the best words. The greatest evangelist is the one who, like Jesus, has positioned their life for love. To end, Leslie Newbigin, famous missiologist, said this, that you should live a life that provokes questions, for which the gospel is the only reasonable answer. You know what kind of life provokes questions for which the gospel is the only answer? A life rigorously positioned for love. May it be so with us. May we walk after Jesus who gave his body and his life for us. May we position our lives for love in the most relentlessly practical ways possible. May we reject treating love like an idea and put it into the schedule and bones of our real lived lives. Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the blessing you have given us by positioning your life for love. Thank you that you absorbed the curse. You passed on the blessing, and we receive it as salvation to our souls. May we not treat your words about love as good advice or nice to have. May we treat your words about love as a life-altering, schedule-shaping reality that should we live into it, you offer us in your words life and life abundantly. May we experience abundant life through your Spirit, through positioning our lives as a place of Christ-like love. In your name, amen.